Welcome to This Must Be the Place. I'm your host, Alo Galinsky. Each week, I'll uncover what's happening in Sonoma County, diving into the hidden gems and quirky corners. I'll be interviewing some of our local legends, as well as people you didn't know you need to know, all through the eyes of a craft beer enthusiast living in wine country. Join me as we explore one sip, one story, and one adventure at a time, and together we'll find out why this must be the place. Today, we are joined by Serafina Palandech, the Executive Director of the Sebastopol Center for the Arts. Under her guidance, SebArts has entered an innovative new chapter focusing on building community and expanded artistic experience. She is here to discuss the debut of a new Wayne Thiebaud exhibit titled The Unknown Thiebaud, Passionate Printmaker. Running from January 10th through March 8th, 2026, this exhibition reveals a side of the artist many have never seen. His lifelong passion for printmaking, from his very first prints to work spanning 6 decades, we're exploring the intimate pieces and the legendary partnerships that define this American master's career. Serafina, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, wow. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I'm really excited to dig into everything Sebastopol Arts as well as this exhibit. I think we have a lot of fun things to cover here. And for starting off, for our listeners who might not be familiar with the Sebastopol Center for the Arts, do you want to briefly describe the center's mission and how it serves the community?
Yeah, so SebArts has, we call it SebArts for short. So I'm going to use that shorthand. We've been around since 1988, serving Sonoma County artists and art lovers. Our mission is to support the arts in all of its various forms. We currently have 9 programs. So those range from, we have our gallery program, which the Thiebaud show is part of. We have a ceramic studio. We have the Sebastopol Documentary Film Festival, which is an incredible film festival if you like documentaries. We have education, kids programming, adult programming. We're a very robust organization that's run by thousands of volunteers from around Sonoma County.
That's really great. It sounds like you certainly have something for everyone.
We do. And if we don't, we're happy to create it.
Now,
there's a literary arts program. Yeah, we have lots going on here.
Is there a suggestion box people can drop those comments in, or should they email?
Exactly. Yeah, just give me a call. We are growing, which is really exciting. SebArts is here to facilitate the artistic endeavors of the community, right? So we think a lot and deeply about a few core values that guide us, and one of those is this belonging, right? And how to create a community of belonging where folks are invited in and want to stay and want to build together. That's something we've been really focused on the last couple of years, and we're seeing that expand into alternate art forms based on the community's desires and demands.
That's really cool. I mean, as somebody who grew up in Sebastopol and also was involved in the arts, albeit the performing arts, I know how important community and the arts are to Sebastopol as a town, and it really seems like it serves that purpose here.
Are you a theater kid?
I am a theater kid. I went to Annalee.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's great. We definitely need to grow that program here at SebArts, so you're welcome anytime to come put on play.
Well, I think we have to chat about after this interview, but
yes,
exactly. Back to the Thiebaud exhibition. It's been on for a couple of days now. Do you want to start by painting a picture of what people will experience when they walk through the door?
Yeah, so Wayne Thiebaud, Unknown Thiebaud, Passionate Printmaker, is a exhibition that's been curated by a local community member, Alan Porter. And he focused on several storylines that are perhaps less known about Wayne Thiebaud. Thiebaud is generally known for his very colorful painting of cakes and pie slices. And this exhibit focuses on some other really important things that Thiebaud really was passionate about, and that is his printmaking. So he is an artist who would make iteration upon iteration upon iteration and multiple prints upon prints of an idea that he was working on. So we show this in the exhibit. He'll start an idea for a print, let's say in 1964. And then you'll see him return to this same image over and over again in different iterations over the course of the next, 30, 40 years. So there's a print in here that's dated 1964/2017, meaning he started it in 1964 and he finished it in 2017. So there's all of his prints. We do have several of his paintings, woodcuts, and we also tell the story of he and his gallerist, Alan Stone. So this is an interesting Sebastopol story. Wayne Thiebaud, when he was, we're going to get around to Sebastopol. So when he was young, a young artist, he was looking for representation, and he was walking around to the famous galleries in New York City. He walked into Alan Stone's gallery and showed him his work. Alan Stone essentially said, "Get out of here, kid," and Wayne Thiebaud left. But that night, Alan couldn't stop thinking about the work. Right, so Thiebaud had this idea that what was interesting, that essentially nothing's original, right? And the interesting thing is to try and use the same shapes over and over again to get different results. So he was obsessed with the idea of a triangle and a circle, right? Which is a pie slice, if you think about it. Anyway, so Alan couldn't stop thinking about Thiebaud's work. He called him the next day and he said, "Okay, I'm gonna give you a shot." Alan Stone canceled the exhibition he had for that was currently scheduled for Warhol and Liechtenstein.
Wow.
And gave it to Thiebaud.
That's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. And all the work sold. Every single piece in the show sold. Yeah. So then anyway, they went on to work together for the next 34 years, which is also highly unusual. Okay. Now we're going to get to Sebastopol. So Alan Stone had 6 daughters, and one of his daughters, Heather Stone, lives here in Sebastopol.
Okay.
So she's been a huge supporter of the arts. She is a huge supporter of the arts. And she has a tremendous collection, and she lent us 35 pieces that started the basis for this show. So again, it's through, community building, people coming together and wanting to share. Her work has never been seen. A lot of the work in this show has never been seen in any gallery, in any museum. So it's quite a treat for our small community to have something so extraordinary.
Yeah, absolutely. What a unique connection too.
Yeah. So Heather lent us work. So did his other daughters, Jeremy and Allison, and he has a 4th daughter named Olympia, and she's a documentary filmmaker. And we're going to be showing her film about Alan Stone on, I think, February 28th. So that'll be fun. And Olympia's coming out from the East Coast.
Very cool. Now, how does this Wayne Thiebaud exhibition reflect or advance SebArts' core values?
I love this story about how the community comes together to support each other. We've done a couple of these curated shows here where the community lends art to SebArts so that the rest of the community can view it and enjoy it and see it. And I think that's a really important thing that we have here is how supportive people are of the arts and of artists. So it supports our core value of creativity, showing Thiebaud's beautiful work and creativity and the iteration in the process, as well as this idea of everyone is welcome here, and we want to try and grow and provide an art experience for our local community that's extraordinary.
And speaking of getting people in to see his work, what is it about Thiebaud's work that makes him relevant today and this show to be a not-to-be-missed experience?
Well, Thiebaud is very popular right now. So right now there is the first Wayne Thiebaud show in England. I'm pretty sure it's at the Courtauld, which is an incredible museum, art gallery, also a school in London. So his draw is universal at this point. There was recently a Thiebaud show at the Legion of Honor in San Francisco. That was an incredible show as well, more focused on his paintings. So this is kind of a continuation of everybody's obsessed with Thiebaud right now. Everybody loves Thiebaud. He's relatable. His work is beautiful. It's easy to understand it, I'll take it a little bit further. Thiebaud really admired a specific painter who consistently, basically, he spent his entire 50-year career painting the same 3 bottles over and over again, right? And it's kind of like seeing painting as meditation, painting as the focus on small things allow us to be present for what's happening in our daily lives. So I think that I think this show gives us that as an opportunity to meditate, to slow down, to learn about process. And I mean, to enjoy a really beautiful product, but really to think about process as a meditative act and how art can serve that purpose for us as well.
And it sounds like there's really something for everybody to latch onto. It's not high art. It's not something that people maybe have to think too much about when you're thinking about accessibility and getting people into the Seb Center for the Arts.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think that's a really good point. It's just beautiful work,
Yeah.
right? It's easy to understand.
And speaking of his work and the fact that you had this connection with the Stone family, was there anything that inspired you in particular to focus the exhibition on his prints rather than his better known paintings as the Legion of Honor did?
Well, we had access to his prints that some of which hadn't been seen before. And so we thought that that was a remarkable story to tell, to show, and the work is incredible. It's beautiful work. So we really wanted to think deeply about the printmaking work. We had a print show here last year. So we do 8 to 9 exhibitions a year here in our gallery. And last year, one of the shows was a printmaking show. It was a juried show, right? So that means that anybody could enter to exhibit their art here. And then we had an independent juror who reviews all the art and decides what was in or what's out. We had something like 500 or 600 entries for that print show.
Wow.
And there was so much interest in printmaking. Now, there's also there's the Northern California Printmakers Association. They partnered with us on that as well. And then in Sebastopol, there's a North Bay Letterpress. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're a great organization. Point is that there's a lot of love for printmaking here in the Bay Area and in Sonoma County in particular. So we were kind of aligned with that as well.
Yeah, it seems to be a nice fit and also be able to focus on, as you said, some of these works that you're unearthing for the very first time. A lot of people associate Thiebaud with these thick, oil-painted cakes and pies, talking about this over and over again. It's just going to make me hungry by the time we're done talking here. But how do these prints challenge or expand, like, our understanding of his artistic identity?
He became really interested in perspective. So a lot of the paintings that we're familiar with are kind of somewhat flat, direct paintings of, like you said, cakes, candies, Americana in a certain way. But he certainly did not identify as a pop artist. But he became more and more interested in perspective and distortion. So there's this piece, again, I'm pretty sure it's called Green Street, but I could have gotten that wrong. That's here in the gallery. We have 6 versions of this piece. We show the evolution of how he developed from his beginning point through to the last print that he made. The first version, the perspective, you can understand it's a street with a hill. But as time passes and the evolution of the different prints, it gets more and more distorted. And you can see how he keeps removing more and more elements from the print, or from the plate, I should say, to create ultimately what is a very confusing piece of art. So that's kind of fun to see his evolutionary process of how he thought about his work and was willing to take all these chances and risks to try new things.
And how does his process of printmaking, there's a couple different types, drypoint, monotype, change the mood of his subjects compared to his famous paintings?
There's many types of printmaking processes, and I would say that each one definitely has a different mood, feel what it invokes in you when you see it, right, in the eye of the beholder. I would say another interesting thing that Alan, our curator, explored in this, there are things called master printmakers, right? So the artist develops the artwork, but ultimately it's a master printmaker who does the printing. Okay, so we have an incredible print organization called Crown Point Press in San Francisco. It's Fort Mason right now. And they have master printmakers there who worked with Thiebaud for years. So they would do the actual printing of the piece that Thiebaud designed. In this exhibition, we actually even acknowledged who the printmakers were, which is almost never. That's very rarely have I seen that done. So I really appreciate that that detail, is to acknowledge the master printmaker. And then we have the absolute delight of having some of the master printmakers that are going to come to Sebastopol Center for the Arts and talk to us about what it was like to print with Thiebaud.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so there'll be a panel of master printmakers one evening, and then one of the master printmakers is also teaching a class here. So that's really cool.
So it sounds like along with this exhibit, you're bringing in a filmmaker, you're bringing in these printmakers and having these panels. It sounds like you're really encouraging a lot of other fun discussion and also activations than just coming to see the exhibit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many art forms and mediums that people are passionate about here, and they all relate. It's like a call and response, they relate to each other, and it's so interesting to see one version of through the eyes of another medium, So yeah, we do wraparound programming with all of our exhibitions. For this exhibition, like I said, we have the collectors is playing. We have a printmakers panel, printmaker class. We have an art history lecture that's being done by Linda Loveland Reed, talking about Thiebaud's history. And then we also have docent tours. So there's docents who are trained who can take you around the exhibition to teach, to tell you the ins and outs of it.
Sure. Now let's pull back the curtain a little bit here, Serafina. Why don't you share some behind the scenes anecdotes about how the show came to be? Is there anything that pops out to you behind the loans of particular prints or objects? Anything about local collectors and donors contributing to make the show possible? Let our listeners know a little bit of behind the scenes of what it takes to make an exhibit like this possible.
So we're a community arts center, right? We are a small community arts center that significantly punches above its weight. And Alan did just an incredible job bringing these pieces together. But, when it started 9 months ago, we just had the idea that we'd like to put on a Thiebaud show. And we had to go out and find all of these pieces to be lent to our organization. And then all of the, of course, logistics that goes into moving fine art and ensuring fine art and ticketing and all the pieces to it is very, very complex for us. But I think we pulled it off pretty darn well. It's always a learning lesson in how these things are done. But basically what happened was Heather lent us some work, which then led us to the Thiebaud Foundation, and they lent us some work. And then the Paul Thiebaud Gallery lent us some work, and it kind of just snowballed. And in fact, at the opening, I was talking with somebody, and he said, why didn't you tell me you were doing a Thiebaud show? I have another 50 pieces. And I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know. Yeah.
Well, now you know, in case you ever decide to bring him back.
There you go. For our next Thiebaud show.
That's right. For Thiebaud Part 2.
Yeah.
Now, were there any particular challenges you faced in organizing this exhibition? Anything conceptually or logistically that, were hard to get over, but you made it to the finish line?
Because we do so many shows, right? We do 9 shows a year, 8 shows or 9 shows a year, which means that we are installing and uninstalling every 6 weeks. So there's a tremendous amount of challenges that go along with that. So in this case, usually folks ship their art into us, we keep it in storage, and then we hang it as a team, right? But in this case, we wanted it to go directly from the art shipper directly onto our walls. So we created a miniature, like an actual gallery model, and we pre-placed every piece of art. There's a lot of forethought and planning that went into it so that the art moved the smallest amount. It only had to move one time, from the collector's house to the wall and never be moved again until we pick it up and take it back.
Talking about Thiebaud's relationship to Northern California, what was it and how is it reflected in the show, if at all?
Thiebaud is from Sacramento. So the Thiebaud Foundation is in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. And he taught here. Several of the people I've met over the past couple weeks were students of his or knew him in some way. We're such a small world when it comes down to it, but it turns out the degrees of separation between Paul Thiebaud and the rest of the world are very, very small. It's like 2 degrees of separation. He had a lot of connections here in Sebastopol, but in the Bay Area. But from Sacramento. It's so close.
Sure.
So yeah, he's a hometown hero.
Now, as somebody who loves art and is immersed in art themselves, what elements of Thiebaud's printmaking technique surprised you the most?
I don't know why I was surprised, but I was kind of surprised at how obsessive he was.
Oh, yeah?
How he could go back and do the same thing over and over and over again. Isn't that like doing something over and over again, expecting different results? It's not the definition of crazy, but for him, it worked. I mean, it's incredible what he managed to accomplish through process, through the doing something over and over again. I think is really interesting. This is another local legend. There's a potter, Marguerite Wildenheim, who was a Bauhaus potter. She became a master potter in Germany as part of the Bauhaus movement in the 1930s. And ultimately, she fled Nazi Germany and founded a place called Pond Farm Pottery that's here. It's in Guerneville, right? So it's very close. And she went on to teach pottery there for the next 30 years. And fascinating story. But anyway, the idea that Marguerite taught was the idea that you practice making the same form over and over and over again, right? So she would have her students throw the same pot all day long from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. They'd throw the pot, and then as soon as it was done, it was never fired. It was thrown back into the pile, and you start over and do it again, right? So it's the idea of artistic creation is based on mastery first, right? So that you learn process before the artistic angle is put onto it. And I see that echoed in Thiebaud's work, right? This idea that he was just practicing over and over again the obsessive mastery of form.
I feel like that comes with most things. You think about cooking or musicianship or any of these kind of practice forms where repetition really does breed results.
Absolutely.
Or you would hope it would breed results, but you gotta learn the basics and you gotta practice it over and over again. That old saying, practice makes perfect.
Totally. But I think that there can be a mythology around artists, or a mythology around musicians, or a mythology around any artistic practice that they are just, sprung from the God's head, right? It's like you just arrive fully formed, fully artistic.
I think you and I both know that's not the case.
It's not the case.
Not at all.
It's not the case. And I think that mythology prevents non-artists from practicing art. So like kids practice art all the time. They don't have that same fear, I think, that a lot of adults have, that they're not good artists, or it's like maybe it's just about practice, no good or bad, just practice.
That's interesting. And I was talking to somebody the other day for a podcast interview who was talking about how he was learning piano at age 14 and how he thinks if he had been told to start it as a kid, if it's something his parents wanted him to do, he wouldn't have been as interested as him finding it out for himself at age 14. At that age, you are starting to learn what you want to do, not what somebody tells you to take lessons in or join because it's a group or join to be social as a kid. So I think that ties into it.
Thiebaud has this famous quote saying that like all art is thievery, right? Meaning like there's no original thought. It's all
admiration and
admiration is a great word. He's pretty original.
Sure. Now let's get back to his exhibit a little bit. Are there particular prints or techniques in the show that you feel are especially either underrated, overlooked, or must-sees?
Oh gosh, I just love the woodcuts. I'm a sucker for a woodcut. So we have a couple, there's only a few of the woodcuts, and we actually have the block that the woodcut comes from that was lent to us. But the woodcuts are just so earthy and rich and substantial. You have to see those.
And how do the prints reflect his artistic evolution over 6 decades of work?
Well, the very first piece in the show is a very early piece of his work, and it is nothing like the body of his work, right? he tried a few different things before he kind of hit on this, what he's known for. So in the show, it starts with this very, very early piece of work that's very abstracted. It's a very abstracted piece. It's beautiful, but and then he went in a totally different direction. And you can see where he starts iterating on this simple forms. And then later he gets into his abstraction phase again. So there's definitely an evolution of his work. I think it's interesting. One other thing I'll say about the whole Alan Stone relationship, which is obviously it spanned 35 years. It's very complicated and long. But Alan really saw himself as the curator of Thiebaud's work. We have documentation of like their correspondences back and forth. And Alan Stone had a very strong opinion on what Thiebaud should or shouldn't put out into the world.
Okay.
And would send back work to him and be like, nope, start over, try again. So there's this whole interesting conversation that they were having over the years about the evolution of his work. And that's talked about in the show as well.
Cool. It sounds like they had a really tight-knit partnership and relationship.
Yeah.
After working closely with these prints for some time now, has your perception of Thiebaud and his work changed at all?
Definitely. Absolutely. I've always been an admirer of his work. I just have much deeper appreciation for him now, now that I've seen the complexity of what he was grappling with, and the depth of his process. So I appreciate his work a lot more now, after getting to know the show as well.
I'm sure it's really cool to be able to be so hands-on with something and then see it spring to life and then quickly have to move on to the next thing after a few months of the exhibition. But that's the life of a gallerist, I suppose.
Yeah. We're already obviously well underway working on the next several shows. My favorite thing is to get here early or stay late, to get here when no one is here, and to go and just be in the gallery in the silence with the work and just look at it and have a relationship, have my own conversation with the work. And it changes, so the more time I spend in there, that too is also evolutionary in a certain way. It resonates.
Now let's talk a little bit more about SebArts and kind of what's coming up and some other burning questions I have for you, starting with, why is it important for a community arts center like SebArts to present work that expands beyond mainstream narratives of an artist's career?
Okay, well, that's the interesting part, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's great to see work that we've all seen and loved, have known and loved, but to see the intricacies and the parts that are hidden is really interesting to me. So we want to show, the variety of all of the artists and artist narratives out there, and not just the mainstream ones.
Absolutely. And you've created a lot of excited related programming around the show for the community to enjoy, as I touched on. Is there anything in particular you're excited for audiences to come out and see beyond the gallery?
Documentary Film Festival is coming up April 9th through the 12th. It's going to be remarkable. And we have an entire a literary arts summit coming up that's called Books at the Source. And it'll be a whole day of writing workshops and lectures by authors from all over the Bay Area. That's going to be amazing. You should really visit our website because we have so many events coming up. There's one, I'll tell you about one that's coming up. It's called Rumi's Caravan. And it's a literary arts program. But what it is there's a group of friends who's made this incredible mission to share poetry. And each of the 5 members have memorized over 200 poems individually. They really believe in keeping poetry alive through story, by sharing it, by the oral tradition of sharing it. During Rumi's Caravan, each of them gets up and shares. One will start and share a poem, and then another one will get up and share a poem, and it just goes on like that for a couple of hours. But it's the most beautiful, breathtaking work of art of how they weave together these poems. So that's a fun event that's coming up that I think
sounds really interesting.
Know about. Yeah.
I love poetry and spoken word, so it speaks to me. In your view, as the executive director of SebArts, what role do community art centers play that larger museums sometimes can't?
We're really a place for people to come together and to be together. We provide a couple things. There's so many things I want to say about this. One is we provide a place for artists to teach classes, sell their art, right? So we do provide economic development for our community and for the artists that are involved in it. We have an multiple open studio programs where artists open up their studios and people go and buy their art directly. So we're an economic driver in the community. We support artists. We give them studio space. We offer them classes. We do support groups. We're intergenerational. So we really think about that intentionally of trying to bring young and old together. We provide services to kids, free and low cost after school care, as well as free and low cost summer camps. So we're really about community first. I think that people coming together to make art together is a really important part of well-being. And I think it helps in community well-being. It helps with mental health. It helps with the loneliness epidemic. We have this ceramic studio here that's open 7 days a week. And it is just like the heart of SebArts to see people coming together and silently working side by side or laughing and joking together or doing a class together. But just being together, I think having a place to come together to do something creative, work with your hands, I think is very healing to a lot of people.
Absolutely. And I think communities need more third spaces. I don't think there's enough of them sometimes.
Exactly. So we very intentionally partner with other nonprofit organizations. It's one of our strategic goals. So today, for example, the library is hosting a number of events here. They had their tween gaming hour here. The senior center does events here. The community center does events here. We offer other nonprofits free space to use here so that we can, again, just be more together, right? Support each other.
Now, is that part of how you see SebArts evolving, kind of with all these programs tied into one? Why don't you talk to us a little bit about how you see the evolution of SebArts over the next few years? Are there potential new directions or priorities you're excited about?
SebArts had a couple of challenging years there financially with COVID and the shutdowns, everything that happened, right, in 2020 through 21, 22, 23 even. We've spent the last couple of years really building a really strong infrastructure. We have an incredible staff and incredible group of volunteers. So that's what the last few years was. So it was really about stabilizing our organization. And now it's about we're really focused on our educational offerings for children, for youth art, for providing youth arts. And we want to do it as free and low cost as possible. That's one of our primary initiatives over the next several years, is to offer more kids more free education in the arts, right?
Important.
And then to continue growing our other programs as well. We want to bring innovative art to Sonoma County, as well as support our community-based artists. We just, this year, we're launching a new residency program. So we have 2 artists that are coming from other parts of the world to work here in dedicated time and space, to work at SebArts, to make their art here, to make a body of art here, which will culminate obviously in a show, but also will teach our artists already working here. So we'll open up our world even more by bringing in multicultural artists.
Very cool. Sounds like you have a lot going on.
We're busy.
Now, as we start wrapping up here, bringing it back to Thiebaud and his wonderful exhibit, can you tell us what it means for Sebastopol to host an exhibition of this caliber?
We want Sebastopol Center for the Arts to be on the world's art stage.
You want it to be the center of the arts.
Yeah, we want it to be the center of the arts. We want to elevate this place. We want to continue to elevate the experience for people from all over Sonoma County and give them opportunity to see art they might not see otherwise.
Sure.
And to make art together. I want us to be the top art center in California.
She said it. Serafina said it, everybody. That's the ultimate goal here.
We got a ways to go, but I think we can do it.
One great gallery exhibition at a time, right?
Exactly.
Now, for those coming out and might be inspired by this exhibition, what are some ways they can continue to engage with SebArts, whether as an artist, volunteer, or supporters? It sounds like you have this new residency program. But as we wrap up, why don't you tell our listeners some ways that they can get engaged with SebArts that might be to everybody's fitting?
Yeah. So the first thing I always say is volunteer. Come and learn more about us. Visit us first and foremost, and volunteer. Lean into our community of wonderful folks. There's so many people here that are involved, and it's a great community. Become a member. That's a great way to get involved. We have membership programs that start at $10 a month or less, and that supports the ongoing operations of the organization. You can take a class, contribute art to one of our gallery exhibitions, come to the film festival. There's so many ways to get involved. The easiest way to find out is sign up for our newsletter, which is at SebArts.org, O-R-G. And check our social media. Our handle is Sebastopol Arts on Facebook and Instagram. Follow us, and you'll see all the amazing, cool things we're doing.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Serafina. This has been an engaging conversation all about the Thiebaud exhibition. For our listeners out there, make sure you get out to the center and see the exhibition running through March 8th of this year. I encourage you to get out there, engage with the arts this winter and spring, and keep on listening to This Must Be the Place as we delve into some other great, fantastic topics this winter. Serafina, thank you again, and have a great week.
Thank you so much.
The interviews are done, which means I think it's time to crack one open. Interviews make me thirsty, and I want you thirsting for knowledge about some great beer, both local and not so local. Each week, I'll introduce you to a beer I find discussion-worthy and explain the nuances of what makes it fantastic in my eyes and why you should give it a try. And just to keep it on point, I'll even try to make sure the beer reflects the vibe or theme of the episode. Now, I don't know about you, but I am thirsting for something refreshing after that invigorating chat with Serafina, all about the stellar exhibit on display in Sebastopol. I had picked up this 4-pack last week because it had an apt tie-in to the 49ers and Seahawks game, Pacific Crush. I was hoping the Niners would do just that, crush the other Pacific team. But let's switch our focus to the beer at hand, or should I say, in hand. Pacific Crush is a West Coast IPA brewed by Cellarmaker Brewing Company out of San Francisco that's 6.1% alcohol by volume and hopped with Mosaic, Citra, the aptly named Crush, which is a newer hop varietal this year, and Cascade. It's an amazingly balanced and light-bodied beer for the amount of hops that went into it. At a moderate alcohol level, it does help take the edge off of a long day, or perhaps a deflating sports ball loss. Either way, it's one that you can't go wrong with bringing to watch the big game on February 8th, if you're into that type of thing. It has tons of bright floral notes from the bevy of hops, with some tangerine citrus shining through. Cascade hops bring the bitterness to balance it all out. It really is just a crushable, crush-hopped killer. Say that 3 times fast. Cellarmaker has been a Bay Area stalwart for years, and they continue to push out really solid beers. I'm glad I found this one, and if you're a fan of balanced IPAs, you will be as well. A huge thanks to Serafina for chatting with me this week. Until next weekend, cheers from your host. This Must Be the Place is produced by our friends at Pod Locally, an audio platform helping local voices connect to their communities. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or comment on all your favorite podcast apps, and visit the show notes for more information, links, and resources. Look out for our next drop on Sunday. Until then, I'm your host, Alo Galinsky, saying have a great week.